was carrying, still carrying, you know. And there's one scene in the film, not around the there's one scene in the film where it was completely ad-libbed, where he's talking about his history. You know, he's talking about that, what this means to me.
When I was connecting in my 30s with co-counselling and through my journeys with my daughter, I decided after Chernobyl rained into Glasgow's drinking water that it was time to discover whether or not miracles could work. And so I went on a journey where I was hoping that I would meet the shamanic people of our world, as well as finding out whether or not if two or more are gathered in one place in Jesus' name, that you can actually make miracles. It was an interesting exploration. And I met a variety of different native peoples, and I participated in sweat lodges and medicine wheels. And I realised the sweat lodge is like the Black House in Scotland. And I also realised that the standing stone chambers are sound healing chambers, and the circles are like telephone exchanges. There's a whole culture of our native people that was wiped out because they started on us. You know, so when I met the native peoples who are close enough to that having happened to them, for that pain to be expressed, and if you live in Scotland, then it's really necessary to apologise for what the Scottish soldiers did in service of the British Army there. But they now have much more understanding that happened because we had been dispossessed. So it was like an abused child often becomes an abuser. Then an abused nation also became an abusive nation. And that we all need to apologise to one another for all of that. But that it's taken a while to regrow our native people. That's for us to get back, because they made an extraordinary job of it by the time we reached Culloden, because Butcher Cumberland actually went north and killed all the families of the Highlanders, so that the seer women and their children's children just didn't exist anymore. And the pain of that is something that was being expressed through Scottish families for a long, long time.
Yeah, and I'm speaking about anger, and Culloden's now been turned into a housing estate, which is absolutely horrifying to me.
Yes,
absolutely horrifying.
That's what they're trying to do. I don't know if they're succeeding.
Yeah, I think it's an ongoing battle. But
always has been.
It's welcome to Scotland. It's but if someone suggested doing that at the Somme or doing that at the beaches of France, there would be an absolute uproar.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's this absolute difference in
opinion. It was also really important to clear the field, and it hadn't been done because the people that could clear the field were killed. And by that I mean to clear the energetic imprint of the battle and to free the souls that were killed on the field.
Yeah, and life there.
Yeah. And so that happened when they did a celebration of Culloden, maybe about 20 years ago now, when there were a lot of people dancing and drumming on the field. And I don't suggest we celebrate the battle. I don't suggest we celebrate any battle. But I do think that it's necessary to remember that this is a graveyard. It's a killing field. And that all of the people who were killed on it had families. And that those families are affected through their ancestral line. So a lot of people in this generation have actually been doing family constellations workshop to clear down the line.
Yeah.
And spiritual healing at distance, and because it was necessary for a while. I couldn't get on the field the first time I went to. To me, it looked as if it was running with blood. I was astonished. It was just, it really, seriously, the ground was red. And I went and asked Michael Pogashnik, who happened to be at the Findhorn Foundation that week, what could be done about it. I couldn't believe it, because he's someone who puts monuments on battlefields and clears them. He had been invited to Northern Ireland to do it, and he was at the Fintorn Foundation to do a talk, and Podcastaddict said to me, please don't try to do that on your own, it will kill you.
Because of the energy.
And even the day that it was happening, I wasn't personally allowed to be on the field. I was in a Roman Catholic church called St. Peter's in Partick when it began, and my partner at the time and my friend Margot Daru Elliott were on the field. And the channeling that was happening through me, it was really amazing. It created lots of singing in that church that day, and crying and howling, and because it was a Catholic Protestant battle as much as it was an English-Scottish battle. It was about whether or not the throne would belong to the Stuarts or to William of Orange. So it was like the Catholic clans were clearing through me in St. Peter's in Partick. And I was astonished because nobody came and tried to throw me out, because they have done before. But it happened. It was a most extraordinary experience, which if I'd had a tape recorder at the time would have been interesting, but it might have also been shut down when things like that are going on, often electronic equipment.
Yes, it's funny enough, it just kind of switches off, doesn't it?
But it was a most extraordinary experience. And I believe that since then we don't have nearly so many horrendous whiskey drunks. People who were dangerous on whiskey, because whiskey was used to make people battle ready, in the same way as the berserkers used to use different drugs. You know, it's like there's a level of making yourself battle ready. So it was a great time, and I'm now able to walk on the field, and it's very, very beautiful. So
it feels like a beautiful experience now, as opposed to what it was
before.
Opposed
to what it was before, which was really just horror. Yeah. It's horrifying.
I understand what you mean about the ancestral lines, because as you know, I do a lot of ancestry and go through to Edinburgh constantly, and I'm researching a lot of stories that my granddad Pete would tell me. And what he'd do is he'd tell me the story, and I'd go away and do the research and come up with a bit of paper. And I remember being in to see him for a coffee one day. This was before he passed away, and he said to me, my uncle did family research, and that we're from the Clan Anderson off the Black Isle. And I was like, wow, that sounds amazing. I want to go to the Black Isle, tell me all about it. And he says, well, he says the Clan Anderson at Black Isle are at Clawdon. And I don't know who they are. I just know they're there. And I don't know how I'm going to do it, but one day I'm going to find out who they are. Because it's this feeling of being, remembering these people that have been forgotten, and celebrating them.
That was the same thing as with the witches thing. It was these 3,500 people have no memorials, almost no memorials. There might be one in Edinburgh. There's one somewhere in Pittenweem maybe, but they were just disappeared. Yeah,
white from history.
And so we're looking at how can we honour that. I mean, apart from anything else, one of the things I think needs to be done is a soul clearance. And that might just be about naming everyone. Because the reality is that they were wiped from history in the same way as the pharaohs used to fear. If your name was disappeared, then you disappeared. And that sense of, also with Culloden, is that we're not taught about it. I was fortunate, I was taught about it, but I was brought up in Stirling.
Yeah.
And William Wallace and all of that were really alive to me, but also I'm this kind of being. When I'm walking about the top of the town in Stirling when I'm a child, I'm seeing things that I think everyone can see, but I can't, but they can't. They don't know what I'm talking about. And I get information at levels that other people don't seem to get it. So I used to walk across the old Stirling Bridge to school. And So the history was very alive in me. And I was interested, therefore, and did my own research. But we were also taught about it in Stirling, in the school. But I hear from other people that it's just not happening anymore.
No, it's. I mean, even back in the day when I was at high school, it was the unification of Germany in World War II. There was zero Scottish history, and it's only now as an adult that I'm going back and doing what I would have liked to have done.
I remember being told by Diane Gabaldon, who wrote the Outlander series, that's now very popular on television. I mean, I had read the books quite a long time ago, and someone that came to visit me from New Zealand gave me the first book. She said, "I think you'll like this." It was called Cross Patch or Cross Stitch.
Cross Stitch at that time,
because I had taken her to see the Standing Stones at Bandirren, which is outside Perth, and taking her to Kinloss, she and her partner to Kinloss, Kinross, to Loch Leven, to just feel what it's like at the end of the pier there. It's just very beautiful. And she said, "I think you'll enjoy this," and she was right. I did, and so I read all the books.
Yeah.
And I went to see Diane Gabaldon when she came to the Edinburgh Festival Book Festival. And she said that David Cameron and his government had refused to give a licence for Outlander to be shown on our terrestrial television prior to the election and the referendum.
Wow.
Because they knew that it would affect people, that they would see their own history and would understand something about why the Yes movement is on the move at the moment. And I thought that was shocking, really shocking, because it was being shown in America.
Yeah.
And the people were able to, by that time people were able to see it on Amazon.
Yeah, and now they've got on Netflix. So we may find that in the future it has an influence. Because
after reading it, I would say that the research that she's done is ace.
Oh yeah, top class.
It really is our history. And the character that she's created, the central characters, that Jamie is a very valuable human being. He's somebody who's when he kills, he still honours that he's killed a human soul, and that he's not something he does for joy.
No.
It's something he does to survive. And he still looks at, is that okay? But that his values as a human being, his sense of what the laird does is looks after the land and the people, not is the boss of the land and the people. It's a very different role, a clan chieftain, from what they've tried to paint it as in further histories, because what happened was that they gave the land to lairds that were actually going to use it as their own personal fiefdom, which was not what the clan chieftains did.
No.
The clan chieftains were a very different breed. And as well as that, they would never go to war without the consent of the grandmothers.
So they listened to the elders.
Absolutely. And to their women folk. And unless they could get agreement that it was necessary, then they would not do it. It was a Celtic tradition. And that was even once they had become more patriarchal, because way back it was actually a matrifocal society where the grandmothers and the children and the earth were the centre of the decision-making process, not the men of the clan, who were there also honoured as in whatever job they had, but the quality of connectedness that the Celtic women had with authority was something that the Romans hated and annihilated as much as they could.
Do you think we're getting back there, Lilian?
I do trust that it's so. I think we're all here now to do that, and I think it's only not going to happen if we lose faith in ourselves. And of course the culture is still trying to create doubt among us that we've got any hope of survival or success. They are very foolish.
Because we know.
Absolutely,
We know.
we do.
We know.
The insects are with us.
Yes.